Joe Pinion, how do you see this? I mean, you've got a sitting president versus a former president running for the next president. We are 6 months away from an election, and the sitting president's DOJ puts a gag order on the former president. Well, and the sitting president is able to go campaign and say whatever he wants, but President Trump is not allowed to say anything.
None of this
during an election.
Yeah, none of this makes much sense to the average person. I mean, first of all, I love how all of a sudden Michael Cohen becomes this pristine arbiter of truth when the man defrauded the city of New York with the medallions, is clearly there making a recording of his client. And at no point on that recording do we ever hear him tell his client, who is relying on him for legal advice, that he should not actually do the thing that he is asking him to do. And now they have pierced attorney-client privilege for the purposes of trying to act as if President Trump is a criminal. So, yes, I think most Americans see this as effectively stretching the letter of the law in the name of trying to keep President Trump locked in courtrooms while Joe Biden remains locked in a basement. And ultimately, as I've said last week, when this election is decided and when President Trump is likely victorious, it will be on the strength of those voters who voted against him the first time, voted against him the second time, but are tired of Joe Biden trying to tell them that their bank account is a mirage and trying to convince them that the Justice Department is acting the same way towards President Trump as they do to everybody else.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if they're once again overstepping. I mean, some people are reporting similarities between the legal case of former President Trump and the case around Harvey Weinstein, saying that Trump prosecutors are doing exactly what led to the reversal of Weinstein's conviction after a New York court ruling Thursday that the judge overseeing the Trump trial allowed testimonies from women who are not even involved in the 2020 case. So you've got an opportunity here to basically just muddy up Trump. Have all of these women come in, they have nothing to do with this case, have all these women come and talk about Trump to muddy him up. That's what happened in Weinstein's case and led to the reversal of that conviction, Joe.
Well, look, I think if you are under the impression that these cases are about holding Trump accountable, then I've got a bridge to sell you and some Hillary Clinton commemorative presidential coins. Because ultimately, all this is about is trying to pin Trump to every single Republican up and down the ballot, try to pin every single one of those felony indictments to every Republican up and down the ballot, and in the process, try to get the headline they've never been able to get: Trump guilty of a criminal offense, irrespective of whether it is destined to be overturned on appeal, which, by the way, would come many, many moons after Election Day in 2024.
What do you think, Mark?
Well, look, I mean, the opportunity for a fair trial here is slim to none. I mean, we're talking about a jurisdiction whereby 87% of the people in that jurisdiction voted against Trump. And then when we talk about the gag orders, you know, Juan Merchan, the judge in this case, he voted for Biden in 2020. And news just came out that his daughter has raised $100 million in this case. So, like, there's no way for him to get a fair trial. And then on top of that, gag orders are supposed to exist to protect criminal defendants, not to be used against them, to protect criminal defendants so that they have their constitutional rights, the 4th, the 6th, the 14th Amendments. These are being stripped of President Trump, so he can't talk about it, and it just makes this an even greater uphill battle for him.